What's up, everybody? Welcome to Smallmouth Crush. I get picked on a lot for jerking. I just can't help it. I love throwing the jerkbait. And today we're going to do a crash course on everything you need to know about jerkbait fishing for smallmouth bass. Coming up. All right, what's not to love about jerkbait fishing? It's something I love to do. I fish it year-round. A lot of guys may think it's more for a colder water, late fall, winter, early spring. That's not necessarily the case, although they excel that time of year. They excel because they mimic a dying shad so perfect. So with extreme water temperature changes, things like that, you can experience a shad die off, and the fish will key in on that. What's great about jerkbait is it allows you to keep that bait in front of a fish. It looks like a dying bait fish, and a lot of times it's the only technique that'll work in those cooler temperatures. It's a very effective technique. I love throwing it post-spawn throughout the year, midsummer. That's a great time, especially for smallmouth for me. And I'll use a lot of different actions and a lot of different brands and styles of jerkbaits. So let's kind of get into some of the whys and wins when it comes to a jerkbait. Now, a jerkbait will either suspend, slowly sink, slowly rise, floating jerkbait. And during the cooler temperatures, I really like to have a jerkbait that's going to suspend naturally in the water column. I'd like to keep that bait in the strike zone with very little movement. And that also entails the retrieve of your jerkbait. You're putting all the action to this bait. You're not just casting it out and reeling it in. You actually have to work the rod properly to make this bait do what it's designed to do. And so you're going to typically be standing up. You're going to be fishing at from a 2 to 5 o'clock position with the rod tip and jerking. Jerk, 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 and pause. And you really want to find out what's the best way to bring that bait in, what's going to get the most strikes. So you have to vary that a little bit. I always start out with 3 jerks and about a 4 to 5 second pause, and then work up from there or work down depending on the situation. There's a lot of guys that'll wait 30 seconds in between jerks, a minute. And I'm sure it works. I don't have the patience. I don't do it. I can't do it. Can't deal with it. The longest I can go is about 15 seconds, and that's even difficult for me. So it certainly does work, but another thing to keep in mind, in cooler temperatures, you can use these jerkbaits and actually fish them a little bit faster than what you may have been led to believe. And what I like to do is I like to fish it a little bit faster. I'm looking for a reaction bite. I'm looking to cover water. I'm looking to find active fish. And so I tend to work it a little bit faster, and I still get good bites, even though I'm not letting it sit there for 15 seconds. I may only let it sit for 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds before I jerk again. And you just have to, it's just really time on the water under certain conditions to find out what really works. There's times in the summer months, for instance, this 110, Megabass 110 Plus, I'm going to be really ripping this bait 8, 9, 10 times in a row and then killing it for 2 seconds and then continue on. I mean, you're pouring down sweat, and the dude watching you from afar is like, what is that guy doing over there? It's just some hardcore ripping a jerkbait, looking for a reaction strike, and smallies love that. I find that smallmouth love the bait to go a little bit faster than a largemouth would. So for instance, a Lucky Craft Pointer 100 is a great bait for smallmouth and largemouth. And a largemouth, a lot of times, especially in the colder temperatures, you're going to have to let that bait sit there a little bit longer than you would if you were smallmouth fishing. Okay, let's get into the rods that I use. I really use, there's really one rod that's really associated with jerkbait fishing for me. And then I have 3 others that are available if I need them. The number 1 rod is, this rod's actually designed for jerkbaiting. This is a Nutter rod. I said that correctly. Nutter rod. It's designed by Steve Daniel. It's called the Jerkbait Special. It's a real short rod, and it's got a great action, great tip to it. What's unique about this tip, you'll actually see it's weighted down, so there's some weight in here. I assume that they wrap some lead around it and then put a protective coating over that. But what that allows you to do is it allows you to work these jerkbaits like they're designed to be worked. It doesn't give you any backlash as far as the tip waving back and forth when you're making those jerks. It helps keep the tip steady. It also helps to launch those lures a little bit further, some of the lighter jerkbaits. And it's definitely a great rod for me. Now I really use this rod when I'm doing that real aggressive ripping, jerking, a continuous motion, and then pausing. So this rod gets used a lot during the summer months for me when I want that erratic action. And it's just a really nice and manageable rod to use when jerkbait fishing. I'll also use a Dobbins. This is a Dobbins 704. What's nice about this rod, it's a little bit longer. It's actually a 7-foot. I'm pretty tall. I'm 6'2.5" to be technical. And so this rod, when I'm standing up and I'm fishing in a downward position doing the jerks, the rod isn't hitting the water. So you may be a little shorter, your boat's a little lower to the water, you might have to go to a 6'6" to prevent the rod from slapping the water on a retrieve. However, this 7-foot works great for me. It's got a real nice forgiving tip, which is great whenever you're throwing jerkbaits with treble hooks or anything like that. You run a real nice soft tip. It's a real light rod, and I really like this one when I'm fishing in a little bit cooler temperatures, when the water temps below 50 or so. I can work that jerkbait and work it slow if I choose to, and it's really light. It works out great for me. I spool it with a loose speed spool, and I'm really good to go on that end. If I do throw a larger jerkbait, so if I'm going to throw one of these larger pointers, Lucky Craft pointers, I'm going to step it up to a Dobbins 705 CB. Just has a little bit heavier tip to it. It's still very forgiving, but it just helps launches these larger jerkbaits a little bit further, and it's not, these jerkbaits don't overpower the rod. Like, you can get away with it on the 704. I just prefer it on the 705. And I don't throw the mega huge jerkbaits too often. So again, this rod is just there, and it is needed if I need to throw those larger jerkbaits. Oftentimes I'm going to be throwing some really, really small jerkbaits as well, and so the only way you're going to be able to achieve a good distance on that jerkbait when you're casting is using a spinning rod. So I have a spinning reel and rod set up here. I'll use a St. Croix Legend Extreme 7-foot medium. I spool it with the Shimano Stratic 3000 series, and I find that this is just a good all-around setup. It doesn't feel as natural to me when I'm throwing a jerkbait on the spinning rod. I'd much rather throw it on a bait caster. But there's going to be times if it's too windy, if you're faced with some of those types of situations, that there's no way you're going to be able to throw some of these smaller baits on a bait caster. Okay, as far as line goes, everyone's got an opinion when it comes to line and jerkbait fishing. There's only a couple options. What you have, fluorocarbon, mono, maybe a hybrid, and braid. So braid, I've never thrown a jerkbait on braid. I guess it may have a time and place if you're ripping it out of grass, perhaps. I haven't had a scenario where I would need braid on a jerkbait. So I'll typically run mono, and there's a little debate, mono over fluoro, when it comes to jerkbaiting. I can see everyone's point as far as fluoro may be a little more invisible, might be more manageable as well. During the winter months, during the colder temperatures in mono. However, if I spend all this time to get this jerkbait to suspend properly by doctoring it up, by changing out the swivels or the hooks and making sure it's working perfect for me, I believe that mono is going to give that bait a better presentation than fluoro, just because fluoro will sink and will sometimes, maybe it'll bring that nose down. I don't know. I've used fluoro in the past. I just tend to prefer mono, and I'll use 8, 10, 12, depending on the situation, depending if there's you know, a lot of structure in the water. If it's open water, it'll probably be an 8 or 10 pound test line. Okay, not all jerk baits are designed and made the same. Even the same bait by the same manufacturer, like these Pointer 78s, if you test them out, and I encourage you to test all your jerk baits out to see what they actually do underwater. I'll write on the bills what they actually do. So if it's a slow sinking, it'll be SS, you know, slow rise, SR, suspended, SUS, and you want to make sure you know exactly what that bait's going to be doing underwater. Now, when you're testing at home, you know, a pitcher will work fine if you can get a jar, just a glass container you can put your bait in and take a look at. Aquarium works great. You're going to be able to want to test those baits and find out exactly what they're doing underwater. But keep in mind that in the real world, temperature, the density of the water, the depth that you're fishing these baits in will have a role on how that bait performs. So I try to get them close as I can in-house and try to get as close as, you know, what it would be like in reality when I'm out actually fishing. So you want to really be careful on making sure you know what that bait that you have is designed to do. And then you can use, I'll use Storm suspend strips if I want that bait to suspend perfectly, and I'll doctor them up that way. You have to be careful. You know, different hooks will actually make that bait either rise or sink or fall. I mean, it's such a thin line. I mean, on these Storm strips, you might just be taking just 1/8 of an ounce, or 1/8 of an inch, I'm sorry, and put it on the underbelly of the jerkbait, and that could make that difference. So when you're dealing with hooks, when you're replacing hooks, that will affect it. So I replace most of my hooks with the Gamakatsu G Finesse hook. It's a light wire. It's very sharp. You'll notice all my jerkbaits, I love using triple grips. I don't run triple grips on jerkbaits just because a lot of times the fish are swatting at the bait and you're catching them on the side of the mouth. So you just want really good round bend, sharp hooks. But you just want to be aware that the hook is going to make that bait change the way it reacts to your retrieve underwater. Now you'll notice that the Megabass jerkbaits have a barb on the outside, and so I don't mess around with those round bends. I'll actually buy replacements from Megabass just because I do not want to change the action of this bait. They make such a great bait. One thing to keep in mind with these Megabass is the casting chamber, and all of them actually, the casting chamber sometimes will get locked in and your bait may be sitting this way in the water when you really want it to be suspended this way. So you got to watch that. If you get one that's caught, you just kind of, you got to give it a good shake and free it up. It's great because, you know, with that system in there, obviously it's a great sound to add sound to the bait, but it also helps, you know, make it a longer cast as well. So we're actually going to do some underwater footage of these jerkbaits, and I'll actually show you some of the differences with different size hooks, with adding the suspend strips or suspend dots on the bait, and try to find out what's the best way to make these suspend and just get a better idea of how they react underwater. Okay, so this is a shadow wrap, and I made it suspend perfectly where you'll see the other one that just came out of the package without the suspend strip in it just floats up like it's designed to do. So you're able to doctor that bait to make it suspend perfectly just like you'd want it. Pointer 100, and the hooks are just too heavy, making it sink. So I'm actually going to replace that. I'm going to put the size 5 Gamakatsu Finesse hook on that bait and see if it'll work better. It actually looks like the hooks are too light now, so the bait's going to rise. I'm going to have to put a suspend strip on it and see if I can get that bait to sit perfectly in the water and suspend. It looks like it's going to work. I'm happy with that. Seems like it's suspending perfectly, and that bait's now good to go. So here we have two of the Jackal DDs, and one I actually have the suspend underneath of the bait, and the clown is not. The clown's just going to rise up where the chartreuse or the sexy shad color there. I actually have a suspend strip on it where it's a much slower rise, or it actually just suspends as well. And so I want to put another suspend strip on that clown color and see if we can get that to slowly rise up as well. I just didn't like the fact that it floated up as quickly as it did. That should be perfect. So as far as colors go, I really try to keep them natural. I fish a lot of clear bodies of water. So I'm going to go with the Ghost Minnow, the Bone Whites, Pro Blue colors, just real natural looking colors. There's times though, certain lakes, certain situations where you know, a fish might love the gold, the black, the orange belly. I used a crawfish colored jerkbait before, and in certain bodies of water that does play a key role into getting more bites. Again, that just comes with experience. So I try to keep them pretty much all the same, the basic colors. I don't get too crazy. I might do a clown color here and there. Sometimes you may want a little bit brighter bait depending on the water conditions, things like that, what you're trying to achieve. But I like to keep it real simple. So my top jerk baits are going to be my standard pointer 100. I also throw a pointer 78 quite a bit. These have been a staple of most jerkbait fishermen's boxes. I'll also throw, this is the 112 I believe. Yeah, the 112 MR by Lucky Craft, and then the 97. These have 3 hooks on them. I love a jerkbait with 3 hooks over 2 just to help maintain a hookup with the fish. And these will actually, I'll use these primarily for smallmouth. It gives off just a little bit different action, more tighter action than a pointer 100. So I do use that quite a bit. Of course, the Megabass 110 and the 110 Plus. This one will actually dive down about 4 to 6 feet deeper than the original here. And they come in junior, some different sizes as well. They're expensive, but they're very good quality. Any of these Japanese baits are going to be expensive, but they really, I mean, they're fish catching machines. I can't imagine jerkbaiting without a Megabass or a Lucky Craft pointer. It just doesn't happen. So a bait I've been playing with the last year has put some really good fish in the boat, and I'm starting to really like this one. This is a Dual Realis. I think this is the 120 SP. It's got really good hooks straight out of the package, very sharp. It's flat-sided. It has really awesome swimming action. I just had to doctor this up just a little bit of lead here to make it suspend a little bit better. And it has a great sound system. I believe there's 2 tungsten and 2 steel sounds in here, as well as it helps for casting. And I don't know, it's becoming one of my favorites. I'm going to do a little bit more exploring this coming season with this bait. Maybe see if they have some in a little deeper version as well. But it's becoming my #1 quickly. So besides the 110 Plus, if I want to go a little bit deeper, which I often do, I'll use Jackal DD Squirrel. This bait here, they got a longer bill on them. Come in a lot of great fish catching colors. A lot of the good natural colors I like. Hooks are really good. You'll have to doctor them up a little bit if you want them to suspend. I believe most of them are slow rise. They claim it suspends, but I think it rises just a little bit quicker than I'd like. All right, so I also use a lot of Rapalas. Use a lot of Countdown actually, and floating Rapalas, things like that. Here's the problem. So I have this big box. This is like my standard jerkbait box. I have another one just like it. I cannot find it. So I'm pretty good at knowing where my stuff is. I don't know where it is. It could have blown off the back of my boat at some point last year, and I just don't recall it happening, but I cannot find it. It was full of my Rattling Rogues, Bomber Long A's, Rapala Countdowns, things like that. So I'm hoping that they turn up because they got a lot of great baits there. But in the meantime, I still have a few other off brands that I do use. I do throw the Rapalas. This one here is a shallow wrap. It says slow rising on it. It actually comes up pretty fast. This is a floater. And then I actually made this one suspend and just wrote on the bill suspending. And I don't throw them as often simply because my go-to is going to be the pointer, that Buoyancy, or the Megabass. I have a lot of different brands here. The Rattling Rogues are great. Livingston, I bought some of their, I don't know, they make that noise. You know, as anglers, we buy all the latest and greatest, and they may or may not work. I don't know. I have a hard time throwing one of these when we got this bad boy sitting right here. So I really need to start, I guess, trying some of these other baits, because I got a lot of jerk baits in here that just never seen water in their life. And yeah, I'd love to hear any comments from you guys below. If you use any of these different types of jerk baits, what's your favorite jerk bait to throw? Have you had success on the Livingston lures as far as the jerk bait goes? I'd love to know. It might get me to throw these baits a little bit more. All right, well, there you have it. Crash course on jerk baits. I hope you guys learned something. Hey, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. In the comments below, let me know what's your favorite jerk bait to throw. Let me know if you throw any of the Livingstone, if you throw any of the Rapalas, if you throw any of these other different brands that maybe I need to start throwing more often. I'd love to hear about it. Until next time, we'll see you guys on the water.